like, I don't think you should be doing that. He's like, who are you to tell me what I should be doing? No one wants to hear from someone else what they should be doing.
My question was, do you plan on doing this for the rest of your life? Do you plan on consuming this substance every single day for the rest of your life? I think there's net positives of cultural Christianity. Like, I think there's good things about being a cultural Christian. I think there's also not good things about being a cultural Christian, right?
How would you say to go about people who maybe proclaim the name of Christ but are still living in active sin?
Ruslan.
In your opinion and experience, what do you think is the best way to reach people that are cultural Christians, especially on a Christian campus, where they think they're doing the right things, but you notice that they're not, and they need to be more enveloped and do it with their heart rather than just their body?
You grew up in Virginia. I feel like you probably grew up around more cultural Christians than I did.
For me, that just comes back to, I mean, you are who you surround yourself with. So if you can take time from you, spend more time with these others, they will be influenced. And how you live your life and how you act, how you respond, will make them question what they're doing. I don't think there's something you can say. In fact, I think that's the opposite of what you should do. Tell someone what they need to be doing. No one wants to hear from someone else what they should be doing. You know, if you say, I think you should, you know, I think it's better if do you think that? You know, like if someone is, whatever, they're going out smoking, drinking. He's like, I don't think you should be doing that. He's like, who are you to tell me what I should be doing? He said, and you could say, do you think that smoking, you know, influences your tardiness to class or influences your relationship with God in a negative way? Like, do you think? And I think that opens dialogue, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't put a ribbon on, this is my opinion of you. And then you can just have dialogue. I think that's it.
That's beautiful. I just practiced this in my real life. I had a family member, and we were having this conversation about cannabis use, actually. And there's a lot of addiction in my family on both sides. And I was talking to this person, and I know that they smoke daily. And they're a cultural Christian. They go to church. They'll yes and amen. We'll talk about the Bible. And so my question to them was like, it wasn't a statement. It wasn't a, hey, you're in sin for smoking weed. Do you know that? Like, it wasn't that. It was, my question was, do you plan on doing this for the rest of your life? Yeah. Do you plan on consuming this substance every single day for the rest of your life?
There's nothing judgy about that.
Nothing judgy about that. So it wasn't going to be hey, you know, our family has a lot of addiction problems and you're kind of following in the footsteps. It was just, hey, do you plan to do this for the rest of your life? And their response was like, well, no. Well, why are you doing it? Well, because I haven't been going to therapy.
And the seed's planted.
Yeah, and then I kind of tease that out, and then let the person come to the conclusion of like, yeah, I actually don't want to be this person, right? In terms of like cultural Christianity, I think there's net positives of cultural Christianity. Like, I think there's good things about being a cultural Christian. I think there's also not good things about being a cultural Christian, right? Because you can miss it. You can miss the goodness of God. But I think when it comes to behavior, that would be one way. And then I would say, my position is never assume that people know the gospel. So someone could be culturally Christian and you grow up taking all of it for granted because we're in this Christian society and your family's Christian and you're in this incubator and maybe they have a great, you know, Clarence's parents have a real good marriage, you know, it's a little 8 Mile reference, and not know that, like God doesn't have any grandkids. Like I need to know God for myself. So like the consistent proclamation of the gospel in a general sense, not in a personal sense, in a general sense, I think is always a great reminder. If you guys were listening today, I proclaimed the gospel today, right? That was intentional because I know that there are people even at Liberty University that maybe have heard the gospel but haven't heard it in a way that clicks yet, you know? So I think that's another like practical tidbit that I would say. That's a great question though, man. And that's a tough thing to navigate, especially I could imagine being here, you know? I have a massive update for you. I'm sure by this point, you've heard about the Blessed God Summit happening March 27th, 28th, 29th here in beautiful Carlsbad, California. But we've heard your requests. We've conceded to your demand. There are virtual tickets that are now available for the Blessed God Summit so you can access it from anywhere in the world, as well as access to the replays. And for those of you guys that are looking for something extra, we're also offering a virtual ticket and an exclusive Bless God Summit merch bundle. There's some amazing art and some exclusive pieces done by our friend Josh Nadeau from Sword and Pencil that you have to check out. So join us online for the virtual event and experience some sessions from my favorite podcasters, pastors, and performers. We have a stacked lineup. I'm talking about Preston Perry, Dr. Sean McDowell, Inspiring Philosophy. What do you mean? Lila Rose, Alan Parr, and his wife Jen Parr. We even have Nate Sala from Wise Disciple, Gavin Ortland, David Wood, Avery from God Logic Apologetics. And on the pastoral side, we have my friend Daniel Golding, Pastor Ed Newton from CBC in San Antonio, and my personal pastor from Rhythm Church, Pastor Jeff Moores and his wife Erin Moores. You won't want to miss out from amazing performances from America's Got Talent winner Dustin Savella, Billboard charting hip-hop artist John Keith, and Miles Minnick. And we're still finalizing a few more speakers. So head over to blessgod.shop, get your virtual ticket now, and you can get yourself a bundle with some of the exclusive merch as well. I'll see you over there, all right? Peace.
So in Scripture, there are some instances where it talks about how to deal with people who are in sin. Matthew 18, Jesus says, if your brother sins against you, then pull him aside and speak to him privately. And then in Luke 17, he says, if they sin, rebuke them, and if they repent, forgive them. So how would you say to go about people who maybe proclaim the name of Christ but are still living in active sin in a loving and caring way, to not judge them, but to try to help them better themselves in their relationship with Christ?
Are they sinning against you, or are they sinning in general? Meaning you're watching their life and you're like, hey, you're incongruent with the things you say you believe, or they've sinned against you personally?
It's really just watching it.
Okay. So I know this is going to be like such a cliche answer, but I'll give you a story. So I was at a church, the church, I got saved at a church, and then I joined a church plant, and I was at that church for about 20 years. And we did a lot of men's ministry, we did a lot of small groups, and we did a lot of life with people, life on life. And in that, I remember once upon a time, there was a couple that came around, and they were living together before marriage. Right? They were living together and they were sexually immoral before marriage. And so I knew that like these people were not like, these are like someone I knew. These are people kind of like that have access to me kind of in our circle, going to a life group, right? So one, like, are they Christians, and are they Christians, and are they in the church, right? That's the first question. Because 1 Corinthians chapter 5 says, hey, if they're in the world, like we don't judge those outside the world, right? We judge those inside the church, right? So I think that's important to distinguish. Then I would say, so then what I did was I knew that I would need to have this conversation with them at some point. And I really didn't want to have this conversation because I don't care what anyone, no one likes confrontation. No one likes like, I'm going to rebuke this, like unless you're just a complete psychopath, right? So I knew I would have to talk to them, but I really didn't want to. And so what I did was I just started, again, super, super cliche. I just started praying for them. Like I really started praying for them and saying, God, like, would you reveal yourself to them? Would you reveal your heart for them? Would you reveal that you're designed for sexuality for them, that it's optimal within the confines of marriage, that right? And I just started praying that prayer. And I kid you not, within a week, they announced that they were getting married. And they're like, we're going to go to the courthouse and get married. And then here's an invitation to our wedding. So it wasn't even something that I needed to confront them on. I just started praying for them, and God did that. Like I didn't have to have that conversation. And I could tell you story after story after story of oftentimes wanting to confront someone, wanting to have a hard conversation. I have people that work for me, needing to correct people. And sometimes the best thing we could do is stop and pray, and actually like pray for their heart and then pray for God's heart for them. Like one of the prayers I would always pray is, God, give me your eyes so I can see your people the way you see them, and give me your ears so I could hear your people the way you hear them, and give me your heart so I can love your people the way you love them, right? And I think that to me has been huge. Now, in terms of what if you've done all those things, I guarantee you if you do all those things, you pray for them, you pray for the situation, you pray that God would give them wisdom, I guarantee you the conversation is going to go way different versus like just coming in hot, you know? And another thing I would add is like document your prayers. Like I'm big on prayer journaling. Like I think there's something powerful to writing down our prayers, because in the Old Testament, God keeps telling the children of Israel, hey, I'm the God that took you out of Egypt. He has to keep reminding them all the things he did for them. And I think we're so quick to forget. We throw up these prayers and then we forget what we prayed for, and then God answers them and we're like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like that. It's like, no. God is really moving and active and shaping people. And so I think prayer, writing down the prayers, and then I would come back to what we started with, which is like inquisitive questions. Right? Like, do you Like, how do you think God feels about this? Do you plan to continue in this? Do you want to do this for the rest of your life? Hey, how would you feel if the roles were reversed? Hey, what advice would you give to your friend if they were you right now? And you'd be shocked, just those types of questions, the way people would respond to those sorts of things. And sometimes, listen, I got folks in my life right now that they're in a mess of a situation and they know they're in a mess of a situation and they would give themselves the advice of getting out of a situation. And I go, well, there's nothing for us to talk about. You already know. And so, like, when you're ready, I'm here and I love you and I'll walk alongside with you. And so it's that balance of grace and truth, right? It's that balance of grace and truth. And accountability and relationship you can't detangle the two, meaning you can't keep somebody accountable that you're not in a relationship with. And in my opinion, you can't really be in a relationship with someone without some degree of accountability, right? And so that is how it works. But we live in a society and we live in a culture because of social media where we feel close to a lot of people, but we aren't really close to a lot of people. We may have more access to more superficial relationships. And so it's like we have this perception of connection, but we don't really have connection. So then we overstep sometimes, right? And again, I think like what Jesus is writing, what Matthew is writing and what Jesus is saying in those passages are within the context of small knit communities. Like the local ecclesias, the local synagogues at that context were like 100 to 120 people. These weren't these like, hey, I know you from across campus and I see that you're hooking up with your girl or whatever. So there, I'm going to rebuke. Now, sometimes people need to be protected against wolves. Like there is a time and a place for that. Meaning if someone's an abuser, if someone's just running through, like that's a different situation, you know? But if someone's like struggling, I think we have to be delicate and ask questions and then be firm with the truth. We're not going to water it down and say the standard is not the standard. The standard is the standard. And this is what I think. And this is for me paying attention to culture. I think people want to be called to more, not less. I think especially young men want to be called to more. They don't need to be told like, it's okay, bro. It's all right, man. No. Like I want to be told that I could be great. I want to be told that I could do something to change the world. Like I don't want to be told like, it's okay. You have to stay stuck. I guess you're just always going to be addicted and always have this issue. So I think that's the flip side of that is like people want to be called to more, not less. And sometimes that means having those sorts of conversations in a delicate way. And again, and let me just say this, I speak different to women than I do to men. I'm much more stern with men than I am with women, and there's family members that I have that are women that I have some degree of accountability with, and I just talk to them way different. With men, I think you could talk to men a little different. I think you could be a little more upfront. And with women, you got to be. I'm not trying to hypergeneralize all women, but you got to be a bit more delicate and careful. And there's a dynamic there of male to female, you know? Hey, thank you so much for checking out the video. Please be sure to comment below and subscribe and all that good stuff. And check out this other video that YouTube seems to be recommending just for you. Let me know if they nailed it. All right? I'll see you over there. Peace.